Amaka was born into a Christian family. Her mother, Beatrice, had taught her the way of the Lord. Her father was a pastor, and together with her parents and her two brothers, Ifeanyi and Udoka, they were raised to love and serve God. However, during her youth service years, she became worried. Worried because of the prices of things in the market as compared to the salary she earned. Money was barely enough. To make matters worse, she heard that the youth service salary is even more than what some jobs paid. One day, Amaka came back to the quarters lodge where she served in Benue State, and they were all dancing for joy. It was her friend Ifeoma. She went for a job interview and miraculously, she landed herself with a big job. Ifeoma was so happy and excited. She showed them Pastor Joe's miracle handkerchief and oil which she used. Shortly before their passing out parade, another friend of hers, Uche, also landed herself a very big job. Meanwhile, Amaka had gone for 2 interviews and there was nothing to show for it. As Ifeoma packed her bag to relocate to Enugu, where she got her new job, she called Amaka and told her the secret. "You should go to Pastor Joseph's church and get your own miracle," Ifeoma advised her. "Or have you not heard about him? The mountain bulldozer, the area scatterer, the president general of all the nations," Ifeoma continued. "But my father is a pastor now, and I've been serving God ever since I was a child," replied Amaka. "Forget that thing," said Ifeoma. "Go to Pastor Joe's church and receive your own miracle." Convinced that she will receive her own miracle, Amaka set out to Pastor Joe's church. When she got there, she bought the holy water, the holy oil, and the miracle handkerchief and began to use them every day. 2 weeks later, Amaka was still expecting her miracle, but instead of a miracle, she became sick, very sick. She was rushed to the hospital and the doctors attended to her promptly. Many tests were conducted on her, but nothing was found to be wrong with her. Instead of getting better, she continued to lose weight every day. Finally, she was taken to Pastor Joe's church. As she lay there weak, her father, Pastor Samuel, was called upon and informed on the state of her daughter. Pastor Joe came and prayed for her, and soon she was at the church sick bay. As she lay there at midnight, Amaka opened her eyes, her spirit strong, but her body very weak. She saw with her physical eyes vultures fly to the altar and immediately transform into humans. Amaka was bewildered and asked her friends to take her away from that church. That same evening, her father, Pastor Samuel, arrived in Benue State in the company of his wife. As her father laid hands on her to pray for her, he began to pray in this manner. "Nobody will use you for sacrifice," Pastor Samuel prayed. He began to pray vehemently against evil altars. Amaka was taken aback, for she was so weak to tell her father what her eyes saw at Pastor Joe's church. Soon, Amaka began to recover, but Pastor Joe became sick. He became very sick that he was bedridden. The great crowd he commanded at his church soon began to reduce. Some of the church members said, "He healed the sick. He should heal himself." Pastor Joe continued to become weaker and weaker. His body weight reduced drastically. All manner of tests were conducted on him in the hospital, but nothing was found to be wrong with him. Pastor Joe became worse and worse every day. He lost a lot of weight and had pain all over his body. One day, he called his wife and said, "It is obvious I'm dying. I want to confess to you people and stop wasting your time trying to find out what is wrong with me. Master Duru Keke's affliction cannot be seen under the microscope," Pastor Joe said. When I was a child, Pastor Joe said, some men of God came to my family to pray for everyone. They anointed me and prophesied over me, saying that I shall be a prophet unto God. I kept these words in my heart, and after graduation, I searched for work everywhere, but I could not see any. I then moved into business and was doing business for years. Then one day, a man of God came to our line to pray. He said that God called me to be a prophet and that I should leave my business and start a ministry. I obeyed God and opened a ministry. I preached the word of God everywhere and invited people to church, but only a few of them came. 5 years down the line, I was still struggling with just few people coming to the church I have founded. They were just below 20 in number. Then came Pastor Chinedu, who started a ministry 3 years after I started. His church began to grow immediately. Even the few members I had in my church left for Pastor Chinedu's church. "You don't know what you are doing," replied one of my members when I inquired to know why she stopped church. "Go to Pastor Chinedu's church, a home of signs and wonders," she said. "How can we leave the soup in the pot and start taking from the soup that poured on the floor?" Nkechi continued. I could not bear losing the few members I had, so I fasted and prayed for 21 days, locking myself inside the house. When I came out to preach again, I went to preach in the market square, commanding the man on the wheelchair to get up. After I had done praying, still nothing happened. The man kept on looking at me. When I'm done with all the prayers, the man on the wheelchair said, "I am here on my own begging for alms. Instead of this fake pastor to give me money and to go and eat, he wanted to perform his fake miracles." The crowd of people gathered at the market that day started laughing at me. "Fake pastor, your charm did not work today," they all said. I came back home disappointed, and I could not go to preach on that market again because the people had referred me as fake. Unlike Pastor Chinedu, who came into ministry 3 years after I started, people came from all over Benue State to witness his healing power. He restored sight to the blind, made the lame to walk, and even brought the dead back to life. These miracles earned him the nickname, the Miracle Worker. He had several luxury cars, including a fleet of Range Rovers, Rolls-Royce, and a fleet of Mercedes-Benz products. His mansions was complete with private swimming pool and a helipad. Wherever the miracle worker went, he was accompanied by a team of bodyguards, ensuring his safety and maintaining his image of power and prestige. One day, I was outside of my one-bedroom apartment when Pastor Chinedu passed. "The miracle worker, the miracle worker," chanted the children who were present. I wondered at how long I would be in ministry before I could be like Pastor Chinedu. because I wanted to be popular and rich like Pastor Chinedu. On the 3rd, I went to meet Pastor Chinedu. It took me weeks of waiting continuously every morning at his office before I could see him. I want you to show me the secrets of your power and the miracles you perform, I asked. The secret of my power and the great riches, Pastor Chinedu smiled warmly. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and every other thing shall be added unto you, replied Pastor Chinedu. I shook my head and said, please, wherever you have gotten this power for these miracles, show me, and I will join you in that place. This time around, Pastor Chinedu became very angry and said, the power of God is what does every miracle you are seeing. I didn't go anywhere special to walk in power, he said. Get your heart right and you will walk in power too. I was disappointed, but the next Sunday, the worst happened. Only 2 persons came to church. One of my neighbors who came out of pity, and one of my friend who always helps me in sweeping the church before the service. At the end of the service, I called to my friend Ifeanyi and said, I am going to look for power, raw power. I have heard of Babaduru. I saw his advert on the streets. They said he used to give raw power. I am going to see him. The advert on his poster read, do you want to have power and perform miracles? Then call Babaduru for raw power. When I called Babaduru on the phone, he laughed hysterically. Prophet Joe, I know you are going to call me. How do you know Babaduru? I asked. Oya, just chant Duru Keke 3 times and let me clear your doubts, Babaduru said. Duru Keke, Duru Keke, Duru Keke, I chanted. Babaduru flew into my little office in the form of a vulture and then transformed into an old man. It's easy, Prophet Joe, Babaduru said. You guys go about suffering yourself as though power is not easy. Whenever you are ready for initiation, call me and I will come and perform the rituals for you so that you can have raw power. Soon, I was ready for the initiation and I gave him a call. He appeared immediately at my tiny office and made some incantations. Soon, the ground opened up with some steps in it. And I entered inside, and that was how I was initiated, Pastor Joe said. But for you to have access to the raw power, Babaduru continued, you have to sacrifice. You have to sacrifice things that are dear to you, Babaduru said, laughing hysterically. Yes, I nodded. What do you think I should sacrifice? I said enthusiastically. Your father and your mother, Babaduru said, laughing hysterically. What? I said in shock as I involuntarily peed on my trousers. Master Durukeke's decision is final, and if you don't sacrifice them in a week's time, you will die, Babaduru said. I soon agreed to sacrifice my mother and my father, Pastor Joe said, and as soon as I arrived Benue State after their burial, the first Sunday, as I went to the door of my church, there stood multitudes. As I opened the door of the church, they all rushed inside and got seated. But some people did not get any seat. They were happy to stand outside and to listen to my sermons. In the course of the service, a blind man was led by his wife into the church, and soon I chanted, "Duru keke, Duru keke, Duru keke." They all thought I was speaking in tongues. They didn't know I was calling on my grandmaster. Pastor Joe said, the man's eyes popped open and he saw. "I can see now, I can see now, I can see now," exclaimed the ecstatic blind man. The crowd could hardly contain their joy. Soon, I was known to be a performer of miracles. My church grew and expanded more and more. I became richer and richer, and my fame spread through Benue State and beyond. Soon, I was known as Pastor Joe, the mountain bulldozer, the area scatterer, the President General among the nations. As for my riches, money flowed to me like a river. I soon bought a Rolls Royce, a Range Rover Jeep, and moved with bodyguards, just like Pastor Chinedu. Even women who would not agree to marry me when I was poor and always wore my monkey suits were seeking for my attention. I now wear designer suits and moved with bodyguards. However, from time to time, Grandmaster Durukeke will pick one of my members and they will become sick and be brought to the church, and the person will eventually die. This had continued. I soon was married and wanted to raise a family of my own. But after my wedding, I was in the meeting with the Grandmaster and Babaduru. "Happy married life." Durukeke greeted me, laughing hysterically. "You will never hear the cry of a baby," he announced. "But, Grandmaster, that's not fair," I protested. "Not fair?" Durukeke said, laughing hysterically. "Power, raw power, is not fair. The sacrifice of power is not fair," he said. "But great one, you can give us a child and in exchange take one more member," I asked. "No," said Grandmaster Durukeke. "All the members of the Durukeke are to go without a child. It is their price for power and riches." I looked at all the faces of the men and women in the meeting that night. I could not recognize any of their faces in the real world. All this had continued until Grandmaster Durukeke picked Amaka. At the arrival of his father, Pastor Sam, he prayed with direction, praying against any evil altar that wants to use her daughter's life for ritual. He had commanded their altar to catch fire. Durukeke's kingdom had suffered because of those prayers. At the next meeting, Baba Duru was very angry and he announced, "Because you have brought a true man of God to rain fire on our kingdom, we will take your life. That way, we won't suffer casualty because of your carelessness." Master Durukeke said, "Please, Grandmaster, you can take 5 of my members," I pleaded. But my pleas went on a deaf ear. I had sacrificed my parents, my manhood, and many of my members, and now it's time to die, Pastor Joe said. Pastor Joe thought of his parents he had sacrificed, his manhood, his happiness, and the precious souls that came to him for salvation, that he all deceived and sacrificed some. His face was flooded with tears of regret as he made his confession to his wife. Let this confession be published so that men and women of God will take heed Pastor Joe said, "Never do evil to get power, and never compare yourself with another." 2 Corinthians 10 verse 12. When they measure themselves by themselves and compare themselves with themselves, they are not wise. Pastor Joe further advised. Dear viewers, what are your takes on this amazing tale? Do you think that Pastor Joe deserves a second chance from God after he had made his confessions? Or do you think that God should severely punish him? Share with us your thoughts on the comment section below and kindly subscribe as we bring you more amazing tales from African Tales by Oma. Love you so much. Bye-bye for now.